the gun control discussion that we talked about. The gun control discussion is extremely important in these cases. And every time this happens, right away we hear from some people, this is not the right time to talk about this. That's a garbage statement. It's always the right time to talk about this, particularly in these cases. But if you are to believe that we shouldn't be talking about it just after one of these incidents, when would we talk about it? We're constantly only a few weeks or months removed from one of these incidents. That's the problem. That's why we need to talk about it.
Yes, and I think obviously we talk about gun control a lot, and
Yeah.
I am in favor of stricter gun control, but I think this is one of those situations where gun control was not the answer.
In this particular case?
Yes.
I disagree with you. I disagree with you because, fine, the mother had multiple weapons, but it appears, and I guess we know this because of that same media coverage I'm criticizing, so maybe I'm being hypocritical here, but we know this because most of these deaths were caused with the semi-automatic large weapon, okay? So again, if this was a handgun that had to be reloaded after 8 shots, we do have a very different situation. Yes. So I think it is a factor here.
I agree. It's a factor, but I don't think it's the biggest factor.
Well, let's get to the other factor.
Yes.
The other factor is the mental health discussion is often not had because of the gun discussion, and the gun discussion is often not had because it gets wrapped up into politics and the Second Amendment and the NRA. But it gets us to the mental health discussion. And I'm not talking about specifically the psychoanalysis of this individual shooter. I want to be clear. I am not talking about that. I'm talking about the broader discussion that for $250, it's pretty easy to go and get a gun. And most people have no idea. Well, how do I get mental health services? Most people aren't really directed by family because of their own stigmas or societal pressure to tell someone to seek mental health, or because they themselves need mental health and they can't mental health help, and they can't identify that their friend or loved one also needs it. And the stigma associated with seeking out that type of help, that broadly is not really being discussed, Newtown.
No, it's not. I mean, there are a lot of things that we could very easily do, and I don't mean they're easy politically, but they're easy from a policy perspective in terms of what it would accomplish. The high magazine rounds for handguns and also assault weapons.
No question.
I would say that assault weapons should be banned, period, and not just reinstating the 94 ban. I mean making it even more severe in what it bans. And then separately, there are other tangential things that can be done, like having a waiting period when you want to buy a gun,
right,
where you rethink it. A lot of people are hot; they're emotionally hot when they want to buy a gun, and they sort of cool off if you have them wait a couple weeks.
Well, Lewis, reports are that on Tuesday the shooter tried to get a gun and wasn't able to. Fortunately, that waiting period did delay the shooting 3 days, right? So we have to assume if you have a 14 to 28 day waiting period and more extensive regulation, you are going to affect the numbers of these shootings and the severity.
Right, and I agree. I'm all for an assault weapons ban and heavier restrictions on magazine sizes. But, I mean, clearly there are some red flags here when it comes to mental health. I think it's natural for parents to be in denial about things like that. I mean, I don't want to start a witch hunt here and, have millions of parents sending their children to electroshock therapy, but you need to be able to see these red flags, and you need to get over that hump and say, okay, I think my child needs some help.
Well, with this individual, his mother was in no shape to be doing that. Clearly,
right.
She needed some help herself. Also, the kid barely was allowed to go out by himself, we're hearing. So, who else is going to make that call?
There was clearly some poor parenting. And if the parents are sick too, well, then there's no making that call.
Now, all of this being said, though, when people say, well, we should only address the parenting and the mental health and blah, 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 blah. No, given the fact that all of those factors are leading to shootings, let's also address the gun part, because we're at a point where, because those other areas are lacking, the shootings keep happening.
Right. And apart from gun control in general, I think this woman clearly was an irresponsible gun owner, because if you are doing that properly, you can make absolutely sure, if you have a safe, that you are the only one that has access to it. And that was not the case here. These guns were probably not in any safe at all.
I think there's something else that's going on here, which is, gun control, aggressive gun control is something that we could do now, which in the short term would result in less gun violence. I'm talking about months to a year from now, a very short window of time where we would see benefits. The mental health piece, is something that probably wouldn't bear fruit for a decade or more, in the
Right.
sense that you would need to change the system not only to reduce the stigma in terms of getting treatment, but actually making it easier for low-income people and lower middle-class people getting treatment, affordable treatment.
Now, people might be noticing I'm not talking about the comments if those teachers had been armed. I'm not talking about that because we're going to get into that in detail with a debate next segment. So stand by for that. Guns don't kill people, people kill people. We always hear that, Lewis. I want to mention, though, that by the same token, planes don't kill people, right? People flying them into buildings do. But I remember that right after 9/11, we went right into working to keep deranged people from gaining possession of planes. And remember, it was only a handful of people that actually use planes as tools for mass murder. But we made it super difficult for the overwhelming majority of people who are peaceful and law-abiding, right? Most people who travel on planes are not going to do that, to board a plane. So that idea, guns don't kill people, people kill people, so therefore let's not regulate, I don't buy that at all.
Right, but at the same time, play the devil's advocate a little bit here. There's nothing in the Constitution about flying planes.
Fair enough. And again,
Yeah.
for people saying the restrictions violate the Constitution, remember, the Constitution will provide that you are able to have a gun.
Through the proper channels.
Through the proper channels. Don't worry about that. That's a non-starter. Don't fall for that.